Anyways, I tried streaming, but I guess people are watching the Game Awards tonight. So, if you're watching on YouTube, everybody, welcome to the Arcanveil YouTube channel. I'm just doing a little conversation about like what the hell even is an Arcanveil. I'm joined by Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hello.
Dan's just here
I'm
hanging
guessing
out. He saw me in the
I'm guessing
VC.
it's an arc in a veil. That's all I know.
It's an arc and a veil. No, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it's an arc and a veil. That's not, I wouldn't say that's accurate necessarily. No, it's Arcanveil is a
Brandon's
story.
running an arc.
Yeah, it's a story I'm writing. And originally, like I was gonna call the world Arcanveil because it just sounds cool, but I don't think I want to call it. The story is gonna be called Arcanveil, but I don't think the world's gonna be called Arcanveil. You know, like
Yeah.
I think
I
Arcanveil
mean,
is gonna be a term, like a main term that is like in the world itself for like the conception of like magic and like my magic system I'm working on and everything. Whereas like kind of like Brandon Sanderson's one of my favorite authors, so like like Mistborn is a fucking fantastic series of books. When the Mistborn is again a term that is a very popular term throughout that series, and the world has a different name. Like whatever. And I just keep thinking like I don't if I keep the story, what's what I'm looking for. If I keep the world as Arcanveil, like I call the world itself Arcanveil,
it
then
locks you in.
it locks it locks me into like this is forever. This world is Arcanveil. Period. Like full send. That's what it is. Whereas if I make Arcanveil more of like a term, which is what I'm leaning to, then it gives me like more variety. It gives me more options and such. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. That being said, the story itself that I'm working on hasn't changed. It's just I've been changing things up and like taking my time with this rather than rushing it, because I could have sat and like I've conceptualized this idea for like fucking 7 months now. Like I've been like sitting on it and like working on it slowly, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because every time I sit down to like do some like writing for stuff, I just know like no, this can be better. Like this can be better. I know it can be better. I'm just writing for the sake of like trying to get something out when I know that's not what I need to do, because I was locked in the bad habit for so long of pushing out content for the sake of pushing out content, right?
I think only advice I'd have on that is don't try to wait for perfect because you'll never quite reach
Yeah,
that
I don't
level.
want to wait for perfect, but I also know myself. I know that my bad habits in the past were just pushing stuff out for the sake of pushing things out. That's it. Like I was fucking every Dungeon Master therapy video that I did was just I was just pushing stuff out to push it out. A lot of skits I was doing, it's just like fuck it, send it, put it up online. But that's not what I want to do now. I used to put out a lot of content for the sake of just getting content out, and that's not what I want to do. And I've been taking my time with it. So like it's not that there's no progress on it, because there is progress on it. I just haven't been pumping it out like super super fast, because that's not what I want to do. I want to take my time with this because it's meant to be like a project for me. Like it's not my next big thing that I'm trying to like get famous off of or have
Yeah.
like book deals and streams and this and all that. No, this is a story I'm writing about.
It's a passion project.
It's a yes, it is a passion project that I am writing that I'm going to put online in some shape or form.
YouTube, so that way you can do the YouTube podcast essentially.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. It's like I could put it on podcast platforms. I was really thinking about it, but the only downside of that is like, well, that's just another avenue that I have to go through to like make sure things are being posted somewhere. Another thing I got to pay for a monthly subscription, and then you know what I mean. It's just one of those things of like I don't know if I want to go through all that again, because I did all that already, and then it's like cool, now I got to schedule out this and this and this. Whereas I might just keep it maybe just like a YouTube exclusive thing, like maybe
I do
the,
that.
you know what I mean. Like that's kind of like where I've been leaning. Rather than having the stress of like, cool, it's Wednesday, I got to get this out. I mean, I want to have like regular release times and days and everything, but well, then if I have to edit down the audio and like upload it to like, I used Libsyn for a lot of our podcasting stuff in the past, and it's like, well, cool, if I want to use Libsyn again, like because I do like that platform, well, then I gotta make a whole podcast on there, and then a profile, and then this, and then this, and it's just a whole fucking process that. The whole point of this project is for something to not stress me out.
Yeah, that makes sense. You do,
Yeah.
and well, if you do a bunch of them and you get a backlog, that gives you space if something were to happen and you need to take a break.
Yeah. That being said, like I think another reason why it's taken so long is because I needed to get myself out of the mindset of like, cool, this isn't Dungeons and Dragons. Like the story, it's not a D&D story. It's a fantasy story. It's not a D&D story. I'm not using Dungeons and Dragons lore. I'm not using Dungeons and Dragons magic, but I'm so like ingrained in that mindset of like, oh, yep, well, the wizard uses a spell book and the sorcerer is born with innate magic and a bard can play magical no. I've been pretty much crafting like my own magic system for this. That's like very much a hard magic system versus like a soft magic system. It's more in depth. It's not just, your typical like, yep, wizard casts fireball, sorcerer is here, warlock and witches fucking sacrifice shit to make magic. It's nothing like that. It's like a very unique magic system. It's not like a super broad spectrum of magic of like how there's like 30 different schools of magic and this and academies and blah 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 blah. It's nothing like that. It's a very imagine kind of like industrial revolution fantasy. That's what I was actually just gonna say is what helped me to like really get out of like the mindset of like TTRPG D&D like just like storytelling like strictly because that's what I've been doing for so long is I started doing like a lot of reading. Like I actually started reading just fantasy books, like a lot of Brandon Sanderson is a big one. I started reading through like Del Toro Quest again. That was my favorite like series as a kid. What else? The Divide is one of my favorite series. There's 3 books in the Divide series. Divide book series.
Like I have so little time to fit in reading myself.
It's just called The Divide. It's by Elizabeth Kay. It's called The Divide. It is one of my favorite books of all time. Just it's so good. It's about this kid that has a heart condition and he gets teleported into like a fantasy world where they can cure his condition with magic because magic doesn't exist in the real world. It's so fucking good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is one. Yeah. The Divide is definitely one of my favorite influences. Honestly, those are like fucking like 3 of my the 3 I just named. Honestly, like my 3 big influences. Like Brandon Sanderson, specifically the Mistborn series, is a big one. Elizabeth Kay's The Divide and the Del Toro Quest series are probably like my 3 biggest like influences because I sat and I've been reading through all of them. Long story short, it's about this guy, and I don't want to really say too much because like I don't want to spoil anything. I know like my circle of friends are gonna like probably listen to like read it casually, and like I'm excited for that because like honestly like your guys' opinions are what matter a lot to me because we're friends, and like I like that you guys still hang out and talk to me despite not doing TCC stuff anymore. Like it means a lot. Give spoilers.
Is his name Rando?
Little bit of I'll give a little bit of no. His name is not Rando. Main character's name is Aiden. Okay, his name is Aiden.
Okay.
How do I? A lot of his stuff, I will say, this being a creative outlet is also kind of a reflection of me. So there's a lot of parallels of like Aiden, the main character, and like me as a person going through like troubles with like things like anxiety, like mental abuse, like things that I went through as a kid that I probably shouldn't have gone through, like stuff like that. There's there's some reflections of me, so it is kind of like a little bit of a healing. You know what I mean? How much of you is in this character? Probably, I'll admit, probably a good amount. But it's like I feel like I'm allowed to do that because it's my fucking book. Like I can, it's just. I can do that. The character isn't me, but like he's definitely 88%. The character isn't me, but definitely like he's got some like influences from me. This is the first time I've developed like an intricate like hard magic system. Because for this longest time, just like, yep, I've always used other magic systems. I've used D&D magic systems. I've used Quest magic systems. I've used any TTRPG I've played. Like we've used their systems, on a TTRPG like mechanic standpoint, but also like I'm so used to how those magic systems work in this game. I've made my own system of magic. It's very much a hard magic system that I'm excited for, and that alone is probably one of the biggest like edits, rewrites I've kind of like went back and done, because originally the magic in the world was just like your typical fantasy magic, and I was reading through like the first like kind of like chapter that I'm pretty much done with and everything, and it's like I like the plot. The plot I like the overall arching like story plot. I don't like. Good. Yeah, that's good. What I don't like is the inner bits of like how the magic works, like how this world works. It felt too just D&D. It just felt too much like Dungeons and Dragons, which again, I fucking obviously love Dungeons and Dragons, always
So
will.
I have a lot of influence on you.
I have a campaign that I play every 2 weeks with some friends here at home that I've just not streaming it. We're just fucking playing, and it's been a blast. But I want to show that I can write some stuff for not just myself, for other people. Like I'm excited for it. I am. The game plan is like release them like 20, 30-minute increments, and then eventually those 20, 30-minute increments turn into like what is like a chapter. And I'm excited to see if I can pull off making the chapters flow together well. That's probably the biggest challenge of it, is because I'm not just releasing it and like, here's a 3-hour episode that's one chapter. It's like, no, hey, this one chapter is broken up into like 5 or 6 episodes. You know what I mean?